All right, now the United States is calling for a new and modernized nuclear arms control agreement with Russia. The previous agreement with Russia has expired, which is now prompting fears of a new global arms race. In a new social media post issued on the day the pact lapsed, U.S. President Donald Trump said America should pursue a new, improved, and modernized treaty rather than extend previous one called the New START Treaty. He criticized the existing agreement as poorly negotiated and claimed it had been violated. Well, just days earlier, on February 3rd, former U.S. President Barack Obama had warned that failure by Congress to act would allow the last remaining nuclear arms control treaty to expire. And he said such an outcome would erase decades of diplomacy and can trigger a new arms race, making the world less safe. Now, the New START was the last remaining nuclear arms control agreement between Washington and Moscow, part of a series of Cold War-era treaties that limited strategic weapons beyond numerical caps on nuclear warheads deployed on submarines, missiles, and bombers. The treaty included inspection and transparency measures that helped reduce mistrust between the two nuclear powers. Now, security analysts warn that the absence of formal limits increased the risk of miscalculation, potentially encouraging both the countries to expand their nuclear arsenals. And this particularly as China continues a rapid buildup of its own nuclear capabilities. Russian officials have signaled readiness for dialogue. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has said Moscow remains open to talks on limiting strategic weapons, that is, if Washington responds constructively. However, Russia's foreign ministry said earlier proposals for a short-term extension of the treaty had gone unanswered. In a related development, the United States and Russia have agreed to resume high-level military-to-military dialogue, contacts that were suspended in 2021 shortly before Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A U.S.-European command confirmed that the decision calling it a step towards restoring communication between the world's two largest nuclear powers. Now, since returning to office in 2025, President Trump has restored direct communications with Moscow, including talks and a summit with President Vladimir Putin. Now, with the New START treaty now expired, attention turns to whether Washington and Moscow can replace the last major guardrail limiting nuclear forces that together account for about 85% of the world's nuclear warheads.